Don Moen's journey, at 74, serves as a reminder that faith endures. Millions of people are still silently moved by his message, even if his days of touring the world and inspiring large crowds have slowed. Don's life has always been about sincerely serving God rather than being famous. His songs continue to reverberate in homes, churches, and quiet spaces where people most need hope. He has demonstrated to us that as one season comes to a close, a new one full of family, gratitude, and deeper wisdom arrives. His purpose sings louder than ever, even when he is silent. The song of faith, trust, and tranquility that perseveres through all adversity may be Don Moen's greatest song, even if we may not be able to hear it with our ears. If you've ever been curious about Don Moen's fate, the answer is straightforward. God will make a way when there seems to be no way is the same promise he made to the world decades ago, and he is still here, still faithful. His message has never been more powerful, a timeless reminder that God's song never fades, even while his voice has become softer. People all throughout the world have associated the name Don Moen with something unique for over 40 years. People who find solace and serenity in his melodies sing them in homes, churches, and social gatherings. He rose to become one of the most revered worship leaders of all time thanks to his gentle voice and modest nature. However, a lot of people are still wondering what happened to Don Moen at 74. Don Moen's music was never for publicity or celebrity. His goal from the start was to write music that made listeners sense God's presence. Songs like God Will Make a Way, Give Thanks, and I Just Want to Be Where You Are were more than just songs. They were prayers. His remarks served as a reminder to the audience that faith may still guide one through uncertain times. Over time, Don's voice became a part of many people's soundtracks. Weddings, funerals, and silent prayer nights all featured his music. People claimed that when they were at a loss for words, his melodies provided comfort. However, a lot of people observed that Don wasn't making as many appearances as he used to in recent years. His well-known voice was less frequently heard online, there were fewer concerts, and there were few public updates. Some questioned whether he had quietly retired. Others were concerned that he might be experiencing health problems. But as we've seen, the reality is profoundly human and considerably more significant. Don Moen's tale is one of transformation rather than loss. It's a tale of a guy who continues to serve God in novel ways even when no one else is around, faith that grows, and purpose that transforms. Because Don Moen's objective has always been straightforward: to exalt God with every breath, note, and stage of life. And even at 74, that calling hasn't altered. Rather, it has simply deepened. Don Moen was only a young man with a strong passion for music and religion long before his songs were heard all across the world. He was surrounded by church choirs, hymns, and a strong feeling of community while growing up in a tiny Midwestern town. Early on, his parents instilled in him the idea that faith was something you lived by showing love and service, rather than merely talking about it. Sitting at an ancient upright piano in his family's living room as a teenager, Don found solace. He would spend hours playing because it made him feel closest to God, not because he wanted to impress others. He started penning little psalms and bringing them to the youth gatherings at his church. It didn't take long for people to realize that his music had a unique emotional quality. Later, while attending college to study music, Don came to the conclusion that stardom and large stages were not what he was passionate about. His true goal was to write songs that would encourage others to pray, particularly those who had trouble finding the right words at difficult times. His calling was built on that desire. Everything changed when he joined the Christian music ministry that would eventually become Integrity Music. Word of mouth and cassette recordings helped his songs gain rapid popularity. Give Thanks, God Will Make a Way, and I Just Want to Be Where You Are were sung in churches all across the world. Unknowingly, Don Moen had emerged as a global leader of worship. However, he still secretly considered himself a mere servant rather than a celebrity. Thousands of people attended his concerts over the years, but he never lost sight of the fact that God, not himself, is the center of attention. Millions of believers trusted him not only as a musician, but also as a sincere man of faith because of his distinctive, calm humility. A quiet season, Don Moen started to slow down after decades of touring, recording, and preaching. Public appearances became less frequent, and the tours questioned whether he had made the decision to retire entirely for a long. The majority of people were unaware that Don had entered a period of quiet, a time for introspection, listening, and rest. His physique had quietly suffered from years of nonstop exercise. He wasn't ill, but he was exhausted in a way that comes only from a life of constant devotion. He frequently discussed learning to sit in God's silence at this time. He preferred quiet mornings at home and little get-togethers over big crowds. He read the Bible more often, prayed with his wife, and just spent time with his family. It felt weird at first. He had been surrounded by people who expected him to lead worship for a very long time. It was only him, a piano, and a Bible now. However, it was in that quiet that Don found the tranquility he had experienced as a young man by himself in his parents' living room. He came to see that when the cacophony subsides, God can sometimes speak loudest. The moment everything changed, Don took a seat at his piano with a cup of coffee next to him one calm morning. His fingers stopped moving the way they used to when he put them on the keys. They were heavy and slower. Age was coming up to him, and he felt a little wave of sadness. He briefly pondered whether his playing days were almost over. Then he started humming a lyric from one of his earliest psalms, "God will make a way when there seems to be no way," almost instinctively. Suddenly, the words that had reassured millions addressed to him directly. He grinned as a wave of serenity passed over his heart. Don came to the realization that his purpose had never been based on strength or performance. Faith has always been at the center. The message was what mattered, not how loud or quiet his voice sounded. He realized that God was just giving him a new season and a new task. He wasn't done with him. Don was filled with thankfulness that morning rather than sadness. "Lord, if all I can do is speak of your goodness, that will be enough," he said in a humble prayer. That marked the start of a new chapter. In his golden years, a new calling, Don Moen accepted his declining pace peacefully after coming to that conclusion. Instead of crossing continents, he started serving as a guide to aspiring worship leaders. He encouraged others to follow their own passions by sharing tales from his own life, including times of uncertainty, happiness, and faith. He began making short devotional psalms and podcasts from his little home studio, reaching people online rather than on large-scale tours. Thousands of people found solace in these straightforward videos, which featured just Don, a piano, and a prayer. "My platform may be smaller now, but my purpose hasn't changed," he frequently remarked. He used his senior years to impart wisdom to others, reminding them that faithfulness, rather than celebrity or numbers, is the key to success in ministry. Additionally, Don started quietly assisting churches in smaller towns with the development of their music ministries. Returning to the kind of community that initially molded his heart was a complete circle. He was content to just serve, he no longer required attention. Family and religion and the influence of appreciation. Family became to be Don's greatest happiness as the years went by. He would frequently spend his days singing traditional hymns or teaching his grandchildren basic chords. The warmth of those tiny voices singing next to him permeated his house. He candidly discussed how being thankful had become a regular routine. He gave thanks to God every morning for his breath, music, and the people in his life. "Even the difficult days feel lighter when you learn to thank God for small things," he once remarked. His wife, who encouraged him to relax and relish the life they had created together, continued to be his closest religious companion. He was calmer, kinder, and more at ease than previously, according to his friends. His presence had the same calm strength that had always characterized him, even in the absence of the large stage lights. Don frequently expressed that he now considered his family to be his biggest ministry. "The greatest song I could ever write is if my kids and grandkids love God," he said. The message that inspired millions. After being silent for several months, Don finally sent a brief note on the internet one evening. "People ask what happened to me," he remarked quietly as he sat in his home studio and stared directly into the camera. "The answer is straightforward. I'm still here, singing, but in a different manner." He continued by thanking his supporters for their love and prayers over the years. "Remember, if my psalms have ever touched your heart, they came from the same God who is still working in your life right now," he stated. The video quickly gained popularity due to its honesty rather than its ostentatious production.